So you're about to start Oblivion Remastered, but before you make a mistake in the initial character creation, let's quickly go over the best race for your custom class, skills, the best birthsign to choose, and how leveling now works in Oblivion Remastered, because it's changed a lot from the original game. I've timestamped each part below just to make it easier to digest. The good news is though that we don't need to min-max as much to create the best character build compared to the original game. But please do listen closely though, because as you play through the prologue, you'll need to make some key decisions that dictate how fast your character levels up in the long run throughout your entire playthrough. Starting out, what is the best race in Oblivion Remastered to pick? And I'm going to preface this by saying the one that you think looks cool. You're going to be playing this game for hundreds of hours. But here's the best race. Now the most important thing you need to understand is that all the races have different starting attributes and skills. But ultimately, all of this can largely be ignored, because as you play the game, the more you use a skill, the more you level it up, just like it was in Skyrim. Now in Oblivion Remastered, all of your attributes and skills can be maxed out to level 100. This means that you can actually max out all of your character's stats no matter what decisions you make. So character creation is actually just a starting point. Also, choosing between a male and female character no longer affects your starting stats, but there is now an origin option for each race, and this will affect your base starting attributes. You can see here the Dark Elf, for example, can be from Vardenfell or from the mainland, which changes their endurance and personality attribute by 10 points. Obviously though, having a higher endurance gives us more health, which is way more useful and clearly the best choice here. But considering we can max out all our stats, this won't make much difference later. And if you want to run down all the attributes, that's later on in the video and I've timestamped it below. But to summarize, the only benefit of these starting attributes and skills being higher is that you'll be stronger in these areas at the start of the game. But do not pick your race based on having good starting stats. Now let's go over the races one by one and I'll tell you why one's better than another. So if you're playing a mage or a spell sword or really any character build, the High Elf is arguably one of the best races in the game. Firstly, the starting skills are great for mage builds, but way more importantly, they start with an extra 100 magicka. This is insanely powerful even at the end of the game because you just have 100 more magicka than every other class. And having more magicka allows you to do more spell casting than any other race in the game. High Elves are also slightly taller, so they move slightly faster compared to the other races, just because they have a bigger character model. They also get a 75% resistance to disease, which is nice to have, but it doesn't really come up that often and diseases can easily be cured at shrines anyway. The negative effect is they have a 25% weakness to all elemental spells, so fire, frost, and shock. But don't worry, because you can offset that later on very easily with armor enchantments and different spells. Overall, the High Elves are the best choice for a mage and a spell sword character, but closely followed by the Breton, with good magic related starting skills, but more importantly the Bretons start out with an additional 50 magicka, which like I just said is really useful. But they also get 50% resistance to magic. So all elemental spells they have an inbuilt 50% resistance to, they just deal half damage to you. And it's possible to actually get that all the way to 100% very easily as well, making them pretty much immune to magic damage. They also have their one-time use greater power called Dragon Skin, which gives them a 50% shield against physical damage. And physical damage resistance caps out 85%, so you can't actually be completely immune to physical damage. But that makes the Breton one of the tankiest races in the entire game. Next though, let's take a look at the Dark Elf. This is actually what the chat voted me to play as. And they are the most balanced character if you want to try out a bit of everything. Here's why. Dark Elves get a 75% resistance to fire damage, and fire damage is the most common elemental damage in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. All the Daedra use it, and with a couple of early game enchantments, you can make yourself just completely immune to fire. You can even walk on lava. Also, if you do want to become a vampire, which has up to a 50% weakness to fire, your fire resistance completely negates the effect of that. And Dark Elves fit into every playstyle of the game, so I highly recommend this class. But should you pick an Argonian? Well, only if you like dinosaurs. Their starting stats lend themselves to being a rogue-like character or assassin, but really this race kinda sucks. They do have immunity to poison, but not many enemies actually deal poison damage. They have a 75% resistance to disease as well, which is nice. They also breathe underwater. Wow. It's absolutely useless, guys. There's only like 2 dungeons in the game where this really comes up as being kind of useful. But overall, I would say Argonians kind of suck. I do love their new appearance though. They look epic. If you want to use it for Rule of Cool, go ahead. You're not really going to feel weak in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, so why not? But what about the Red Guards? Well, their starting stats make them formidable warriors. And they have a 75% resistance to disease and poison, which is nice, but again, it's kind of like the crappier buff to have on your race. They do get Adrenaline Rush, which is a 60-second buff that can only be used once a day. It fortifies your agility, endurance, speed, and strength attributes by 50 points, which is massive. And that actually goes over the cap of 100, which your attributes can only get to by leveling. You also get another 25 health on top of that for 60 seconds. And this is a really good buff for any warriors, but it's not really worth taking the class for. What about the Khajiit though? I mean, the Khajiits, oh my god, they look incredible. This new fur and their starting stats actually make them really good thieves, assassins, and sneaky rogue-like characters. They also have 2 useful traits. Firstly, you've got the Eye of Fear, which demoralizes the target up to level 25 for 30 seconds. And you can use it once per day. Basically, it just fears whoever you use it on, and it's nice to have, but you can make better spells later on, so it's not essential. The Eye of the Night, however, is super helpful when you're playing a Khajiit. It gives you Night Eye for 30 seconds for no magic cost, so you can just toggle this on and off, and it allows you to see in the dark. Now, Unreal Engine's lighting is actually pretty bright, so to be honest, it's nowhere near as necessary as it was in the original Oblivion, but it's still a cool effect to have on demand playing a Khajiit. So this makes the Khajiit perfect for a stealthy thief. But what about the Imperial, the cookie cutter homeboy of Cyrodiil, where Oblivion Remastered is based? Well, their starting stats make them good warriors. In fact, good Imperial guards. And they also get 2 traits. You have the Star of the West, which can be used once a day, and it absorbs 100 points of the enemy's fatigue, which is stamina in Oblivion. It's perfect for a warrior class since you get all of their stamina, and then they can't block your attacks, they can't power attack you. You also get the Voice of the Emperor, which is another once a day power that can be used to charm a target for 30 seconds. Now this is a non-aggressive action, which means you can go up to a merchant, you can charm them, and then you're going to have better prices, it's going to be easier to haggle, or you can even just convince them to do something. But you can later on just buy and craft this spell anyway, so it's kind of like redundant later. But overall, Imperials make great guards. And now, Battle Brothers from Skyrim. If you want to play as a Nord, here's what you get. Their starting stats make them into good warriors, and you get 3 traits. You get a 50% resistance to Frost, and Frost is always used by wizards. It's quite common actually. Nowhere near as common as Fire, but still pretty common in Oblivion. Also they have Woad, a once a day power that gives you a 30% physical shield for 60 seconds. Again, this is not as good as the other version that the Bretons get, but it's nice to have a 30% physical shield, I guess. Then we have Nordic Frost, which gives you another once a day power that deals 50 frost damage on touch. Enough to kill most enemies early on in the game, but again, you kind of out-level that pretty soon. How about the Orc though? Somehow they look even more ugly than in the original game, but their starting stats obviously make them fantastic warriors with high health and heavy armor. But more importantly, their traits give them a 25% resistance to every magic type, and you can get that up to 100% with enchantments too, making you even more resistant to magic. They also have a once a day ability called Berserk. Now this fortifies their fatigue by 200 points, so you get another 200 points of stamina, which basically gives you you unlimited stamina and sprinting. It also boosts health by 20, fortifies your strength by 50, and sadly, drains your agility by 100 points, making it pretty bad for stealth archers and people using one-handed blades, but fantastic for warriors using blunt. And finally, we have the Wood Elf. These guys make really good stealth archers. They also have two traits. Firstly, you've got a 75% resistance to disease, which again is nice. And they have Beast's Tongue, a once-a-day power which lets you command creatures up to level 5 for 60 seconds. You can also cast this on enemies or animals just to make them fight for you instead. It's okay. Once you get higher level, it becomes absolutely useless, but I guess it's cool early. So that is all the classes. Some of their traits are much better than others, but their starting skills and attributes don't matter in the long run if you plan to reach max level. So after starting the game and playing through the prologue, you're going to have to pick a Birthsign. Some Birthsigns offer attributes, buffs, magicka boosts, and even unique powers. And let me tell you, some of the Birthsigns are just way better than others, so don't make this mistake. For example, the Warrior Birthsign boosts your endurance and strength by 10. A massive boost to your health and damage with blunt weapons and two-handed weapons early on. But, like I said, you can reach 100 in all your attributes by just playing the game. So there's actually no point in getting a head start in these attributes. So don't waste your Birthsign on any of the attribute boosting effects. The same thing goes for the Thief Birthsign, boosting your agility, luck, and speed by 10 points. Then you have the Steed, which boosts your speed by 20 points. And again, this is a waste of an attribute, but if you're playing an archer or a mage, being able to move faster than your enemies and gain a distance from them will keep you alive. So there is an argument for that. Then you have the Lady, which boosts your willpower and endurance by 10 points. For more health and more magicka regeneration, but this is also bad for the same reasons I mentioned above. Then we're on to the Shadow Sign, which lets you turn invisible once per day for 60 seconds. But if you interact with anything, like attack or steal something, you will become visible again. So it's really not that great. It's not like you just get to walk around completely invisible messing with people. You can also get spells later on that do this anyway, and you can just recast them for magicka, so why would you waste your Birthsign on this specific ability? Then you have the Tower Birthsign, and this comes with two abilities. Firstly, you can open an average difficulty lock or below once per day. And by the way, all the once per day abilities, you can literally just wait 24 hours in game and then just use it again. The Tower Sign though is useful early on, but later you'll get access to spells that open locks and they can be used an unlimited amount of times. So this Birthsign is just a terrible choice overall. It does have the Tower Warden power, which reflects 5% of all incoming damage for 120 seconds once per day. Sadly, 5% isn't really that much to be meaningful. You can boost the reflect damage effects using armor and other enchantments, but it's just just don't get it. Then you have the Serpent's Birthsign, which gives you the power to once a day deal 3 points of poison damage for 20 seconds. So that's 60 points of damage in total spread over that 20 seconds. It also cures you of poison and dispels 90 points and then damages your fatigue, which is your stamina, by 100 points. So you basically lose your stamina, but you poison the enemy. It's kind of fun, but I mean, we can get this power from a Doomstone pretty early on anyway, so it kind of makes it a bit useless, like a worth of trying to have something unique for your Birthsign. Next, we have the Lover. This gives you the Lover's Kiss power, and it can be used once a day to paralyze the target for 10 seconds. And if you paralyze somebody, they cannot move. So you just wail on them for 10 seconds until they're dead. The drawback is that the damage to your fatigue, your stamina, by 120 points. So you might need a stamina potion so you can actually deal that damage. It's a fun spell, but you can buy the paralysis spell and you can get the same power from the Doomstones anyway, so again, skip this one. Next, we have the Lord. Now this Birthsign was changed in Oblivion Remastered. It gives you a 15% permanent boost to your armor rating and magic resistance. I mean, it just makes you even more tanky. It's honestly one of the best Birthsigns in the game, perfect for a warrior or mage, especially if you choose a Breton. You'd be starting out with 75% resistance just to all magic. I mean, that's pretty broken, and you can easily get that to 100%, like pretty early on too. Next, we have the Atronach. Now, the Atronach Birthsign is the one that you really need to be careful with. It can be really good, but only if you know what you're doing. So firstly, you get 150 points of extra magicka, which is amazing. It allows you to have the most magicka in the entire game. And you get a 50% chance to absorb spells that are cast at you. So this actually means that 50% of the spell or weapon enchantment damage gets absorbed as magicka instead of damaging you. With the spellcrafting, it's actually possible to regenerate your own magicka by intentionally damaging yourself, but that's probably another build video, so subscribe for that. But the problem is that you have this debuff called stunted magicka, which actually stops your magicka regenerating like normal. You don't regenerate any magicka at all. Instead, you need to rely on absorbing magicka from enemy spells to regenerate it, which is really annoying unless you build your character around doing exactly that. That said, if you are playing as a warrior class, there is an argument to be made for just having 50% spell absorption in your character. Even if you're not planning on using magicka at all, you're still absorbing 50% of spells. Overall, this is a really cool Birthsign, but probably not recommended for your first playthrough. Another choice though is the Apprentice Birthsign. This gives you 100 additional magicka, but also gives you 100% weakness to magic. So all the spells basically deal double damage to you. Now obviously there's many races and also abilities and enchantments you can put on your gear to negate this effect, but ultimately you just need to be really careful around spellcasters if you select this. In my opinion, the best star sign for a mage and the safest is probably the mage. This gives you an additional 50 points of magicka with no negative effects, and I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to play a mage. So now you've selected your Birthsign, we will play through some more of the prologue until we reach our class choice. Now it's here that we must select a class, or at the bottom here you can actually create your own class, which I highly recommend since then you can build it around how you want to play the game. So pick custom class, and then you're going to pick your specialization, which is either combat, magic, or stealth. All the related skills to combat, magic, and stealth then get +5 level bonuses. And again, this is just a starting point. You will max them all out eventually. So I'd actually pick what's going to be more useful early on, or the skills that are potentially slower to level up, like the combat skills require you to actually attack something. Next, you'll need to pick your favored 2 attributes for another +5 boost. And again, you'll max out all your attributes eventually as you're leveling up. It will take some time. So early on, we want to pick an attribute that works right for our character build and playstyle. Starting with strength, it gives you extra carry weight. Also boosts your max health and damage with 2-handed weapons, axes, and maces, specifically blunt weaponry. Intelligence boosts your max amount of magicka, which you use for casting spells. Willpower boosts your magicka regeneration speed and your max fatigue, which is your stamina. While agility boosts your damage with one-handed blades, bows, and also increases your max fatigue for stamina and stamina regeneration. So obviously it's great for like a thief or a sneaky player. Endurance boosts your health and health regeneration, but only out of combat. Personality gets people to like you faster during the minigame. It's definitely not required at all, but it does give you better prices, which is nice. But again, you can use spells for that, so don't waste it. Luck affects a lot of things in interesting ways. I could probably go into a lot more depth with this one, but it doesn't really impact you as much as it did in the original game, so I wouldn't really max it out early on. It also, interestingly, doesn't impact the loot table of what you're getting out of containers. Now we're going to need to pick our 7 major skills, so listen carefully because this has changed since the original game. The way leveling up in Oblivion Remastered now works like this. So Oblivion has 21 skills in total, and if you use any of these skills, you'll level up those skills, just like it was in Skyrim. So like the more you run, the more your athletic skill increases, the more you damage enemies with the sword, the more your blade skill increases, and so on. But if you want to select a skill to be your major skill, that specific skill is going to level up faster than normal. And it also starts with +20 levels higher than normal. And don't worry, unlike the original Oblivion, all your skills, whether they are major or minor, will level up your total character level. So therefore, when you are selecting your major skills, you should actually pick things that you want to focus on, or are just really slow to level up in the first place. So here's the optimal setup for any character build. Starting out, do you want to use heavy armor or light armor? Pick one as your major skill, so it levels up faster every time someone attacks you. But overall, heavy armor is the best defense at the cost of being much heavier. I will warn you now though, certain skills just take a really long time to level up. So athletics is leveled up by running, for example, but you physically have to run everywhere, which is quite slow. So selecting this as a major skill means you'll be able to level it up faster, and then you'll be able to run faster. Also, acrobatics now consumes stamina. Alchemy requires ingredients to level. So that's also annoying to level up as well, and if you want to level it up faster, it can be worth selecting them as major skills. Because most of the other skills can actually be farmed pretty easily and quickly without having that extra experience boost from leveling them up quicker. The next major skills to pick are the ones that are key to your character build. So if you want to be a stealthy thief archer, you're going to pick security for lockpicking, sneak for stealth, marksman for ranged archery damage, and blade for those close combat sneak attacks, which is where you do the most damage as an assassin. Now, if you want to be a warrior, you'll need block for defense, blade or blunt for damage. Blunt goes better with strength though, so I'd recommend that. And since you're in combat all the time, you also want to get the armorer skill, which allows you to repair your armor when it gets damaged. You can pay other people to repair it, but if you are a warrior, I'd highly recommend just getting that skill. Now, if you're playing a mage, you're going to want destruction for damage, conjuration for summoning a bullet sponge that attracts everyone's attention, and some other schools of magic for buffing or healing yourself. So now you've selected your starting skills, you finished character creation, but wait. How do you actually level up in Oblivion Remastered? Because it's a bit different to the other Elder Scrolls game. Also, as you level up your skills, you're going to unlock different tiers of perks. For example, once you reach Apprentice in heavy armor, the armor will then degrade at a normal rate instead of an increased rate. And once you become a Master in heavy armor, the armor set no longer encumbers you at all, meaning it's weightless. Now, after you level up several of your skills by just using them, doesn't matter if they're major skills or minor skills, like I said earlier, all of those level ups will go towards leveling up your main character level. And this is indicated by the symbol on the top right. When you see that, the next time you sleep in a bed, you'll be able to level up. And when you level up, you get to choose attributes to increase. And now when you level up, you get 12 blue stars called virtues. And these can be invested into any free attributes at once, and you can spend them however you like. But luck specifically actually takes up 4 points to level up once compared to the other attributes. If you want to get some early powerful items and gear to give you a good head start in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, there's definitely a few locations I would head to first, and you can check out this video over here where I cover some of those cool items you can pick up right at the start at level 1. I'll see you there.